agenda is unpopular and that Republicans can't win based on what he's doing. So he wants to rig the election by picking his own voters. And that is what the SAVE Act is all about. Don't let Trump and the Republicans in Congress fool you. They'll say things like, hey, you have to show an ID to vote. You should have to show an ID to vote, just like you have to do to buy a beer. But this is not an ordinary voter ID bill. This is not a bill that says everybody either has to show a driver's license or a student ID to vote. This is a way to keep American citizens from voting, and I will just give you one example around this. If this bill passes, then in 45 of the 50 states, your driver's license won't count as a valid ID. And then it gets better. Let's say you're a married woman who lives in Massachusetts, and let's say that when you got married, you took your husband's name. Well, when you go to the polls to vote, you can't register by showing them your updated driver's license. Why? Because Massachusetts is one of the 45 states where a driver's license does not prove citizenship. So you bring along your birth certificate, shows you were born in the United States. Can you vote now? Nope. Your birth certificate is still under your maiden name. So yeah, you can use a passport if you have one, but remember, fewer than half of all Americans have a passport, and it costs $165 to get one, and it takes a month or two if everything is working on time. No passport and no birth certificate that matches your driver's license, well, Trump and the Republicans say you're just out of luck. And that's just one example of how this bill will actually make it harder for Americans to vote. There's another deeply disturbing thing about this bill. It would require states to hand over sensitive information about voters to Trump's Department of Homeland Security, so that some shadowy guys can do whatever they want with it. Maybe they take you off the voter rolls. Maybe they use that information for something else. The point is, nobody really knows what will happen. This is an agency whose former leader, Kristi Noem, said just a few weeks ago, quote, "We need to make sure that we have the right people voting." So just make a guess. Who's going to get swept off the voter rolls? People that the Republicans think are likely to vote Democratic. So sweep off black people, sweep off brown people, sweep off women, sweep off students, sweep off people in precincts that voted Democratic last time, sweep off people that you think might vote Democratic in the upcoming election. I've heard this bill called Jim Crow 2.0, harking back to the days in the South when the South blocked black people from being able to vote with a whole series of tests and barriers so that they just wouldn't have a chance to vote. The Trump bill is Jim Crow 2.0. Non-citizen voting is extremely rare in America, and Republicans know that. They've seen the same data that we have. Voter roll audits in Georgia prior to the 2024 election found only 20 registered non-citizens out of 8.2 million registered voters. That is 0.00024%. A 2024 Michigan audit found only 16 non-citizen votes out of 5.7 million votes. That's 0.00028%. So then what's going on? Why are the Republicans doing this? Why are they chewing up all of this time in the United States Senate to do this? Well, we don't have to guess, because the Republicans have been saying the quiet part out loud. Republicans in Congress know that they are in deep trouble for the midterms unless they can rig the rules and pick their own voters. Donald Trump even said it himself. He said passing the SAVE Act will, quote, guarantee the midterms. Because the Republicans know, and Donald Trump knows, that the policies that they are shoving through right now are wildly unpopular. So while Trump and Republicans try to spread conspiracies and lie about the SAVE Act, it's important that each and every one of us stays focused on what the Trump administration is really doing. And here's what the Trump administration is really doing. After promising no more wars, Donald Trump has dragged the United States into an illegal and reckless war with Iran. That's lie number one. Already, at least 200 American service members have been hurt. 13 service members have lost their lives. There are American lives lost and families grieving because Donald Trump dragged us into a war based on lies. A war launched without an imminent threat to our country and without any end in sight. Now, when he ran for president, Trump promised no wars. In fact, he kept saying he would be the, quote, president of peace. He lied. The U.S. is spending at least $1 billion a day on war with Iran. If we put the money that we're using at war with Iran toward healthcare, we could lower costs for millions of Americans. Just this week, Donald Trump's own energy secretary said out loud, quote, we were very aware that we would cause a little bit of increased prices on Americans. Think about that. Trump and his top officials knew that this war would raise costs for Americans, and they did it anyway. In just the first 6 days of the war, the Trump administration spent an estimated $11.3 billion. That was in 6 days. We also lost 3 F-15 aircraft in just those first few days. That'll cost us another $300 million. And estimates say that the Trump administration has kept burning about $1 billion, taxpayer dollars, a day on the war in Iran. And now we are on day 18. Some estimates look more like $2 billion a day. That's over $23,000 every second. Something like $11.5 million since I started this speech. So let's look at Trump's warmongering by the numbers. $11.3 billion, the estimated cost of the first 6 days of Trump's war. $5.6 billion, the cost of munitions spent by the Pentagon in the first 2 days of the war. $300 million, the cost to replace 3 F-15s lost to friendly fire in the first week of the war. $50 billion, how much the Trump administration says it wants to add to an already massively inflated defense budget to pay for a war that was never authorized by Congress. $1 trillion, the Pentagon's budget this year. $1.5 trillion, the total amount that Trump is reportedly requesting for the Pentagon budget for next year. That means Republicans in Congress want to increase the Pentagon's budget by $500 billion. Now, to put these numbers in context, the Trump administration will spend $30 billion in just the first 30 days of the war. That is exactly how much we could have used to lower costs for millions of people for an entire year.
Fucking mega.
People
That's
who
all.
got knocked off their health care or saw their premiums
We're
go up
America.
because of
We're not
Trump's
trillions
healthcare
in
cuts.
debt.
So instead of going to war
Tens
with
of
Iran,
trillions in
we
debt.
could lower health care costs and actually save lives here at home. Here's one more. $12 billion, a number we've already passed. $12 billion is what it would cost to restore the expanded child tax credit for 1 year. So in less than 2 weeks, of Donald Trump's war, we spent the same amount of money that would have lifted millions of kids out of poverty. For the same amount the U.S. is burning on just one single
It's always
day
money for war.
of Donald Trump's reckless war with Iran, we could provide a full year's worth of food assistance for nearly 500,000 Americans. Or Medicaid coverage for 300,000 children. There's one more thing we could have done with the $12 billion the Trump administration has spent on war with Iran. We could have provided housing assistance for around 1 million Americans. We could have lowered prescription drug costs for tens of millions of people. We could have paid the entire National Park Service for more than 3 years. We could have given Pell Grants to 1.6 million students so they could afford to go to college. We could have provided retirement and disability pay for veterans wounded in combat and still had plenty of money left over. We could have helped pay the salaries of more than 100,000 teachers and nurses, 2 jobs that are crucial and where we've seen shortages. We could have funded Direct File, the program that lets Americans file their taxes online and for free. We could have funded
Pocahontas. Thanks for weighing in, Haas.
We could have provided humanitarian assistance for countries around the world for almost 3 full years.
Is that Pocahontas?
That's a huge amount of money. And I want to talk about one more thing we could be spending taxpayer money on instead of Trump's reckless war in Iran, making child care more affordable for families. Here's the thing. People have been getting child care all wrong. Child care costs are painfully high. Right now, families are having to choose.
What a scammer she is. Hey, yeah.
Or settling
That's
for lower
it?
quality care just to ensure that their kids have a safe
Hey, asshole.
place to be
I
while
shit
parents
gold.
are working.
That's true, because
In
I just said it.
49 of the 50 states, families pay more for child care for their 2 kids than they do for rent.
Got him alive,
And
trader.
the reason why costs are so high is that right now people think of childcare as a privilege or as a service that's for sale. That is wrong. We should be thinking of universal childcare as basic public
Show me some proof.
infrastructure. We should be thinking about it the same way we think about roads and highways.
She's not
Why?
the one that
Because
fucking started a
all
goddamn war on your tax
need to
dime and my
care
tax
for our
dime, you
kids.
fucking
And
dumb
when parents
bastard.
don't have childcare, they can't go to work. Investing in universal childcare is also good for our kids' development, and it is good for our
Your
economy.
boy already
We
added
need
fucking couple
affordable
trillion
childcare
just in the
as
fucking
much
past
as we
couple
need
months.
schools to educate our workers and bridges to connect goods to the market. It's basic infrastructure.
This country's headed
to
for a
make
fucking
this
big
country
ass.
run.
Oh, I know
It
you're
is
gone,
the
because that's all you guys
infrastructure
fucking
we
do
need
is
to
spew
thrive.
bullshit, hope it
And up
sticks, and then
until
run.
now, our nation just hasn't been thinking about
Bullshit never
childcare that
sticks.
way.
Trust me.
This is why we need to invest in childcare for every family. You know, it's just basic supply and demand. There are a
Bye-bye.
whole bunch of families that need childcare, but there are a whole lot fewer childcare workers. Normally, when we want to attract more workers to an area, we just pay them more. But childcare prices are already sky high, and families just can't afford it. So where does that leave us? There's a
Hey, I
huge
thought you were
gap
gone.
the federal government needs to fill. Imagine.
I'm looking
if
at
the
truth
federal
right now.
government
It doesn't have to
invested
hit
in roads
me.
and bridges, we just wouldn't have them. And that's what's happening with childcare. And it's why we need to invest
Your boy is not my
in
boy.
universal childcare and raise wages for childcare workers.
You see any
We should
fucking
reset the
Joe
same
Biden on my
amount of
fucking
public
wall?
school
You see any
teachers.
fucking Kamala
In the
Harris? No.
wealthiest country
We move the
on
fuck
this
on like
planet,
sane people.
accessible
Trader MAGA don't.
Access to affordable, high-quality childcare and early
No,
childhood
fuck no.
education should not be a privilege reserved for the rich.
Me?
It
Never.
should be a right. But instead of talking about lowering childcare
I make
costs,
you leave.
Donald Trump is delivering a punch to the gut to every parent struggling with those costs.
Show me. Show me
Donald
one
Trump's
time when I
billions
banned
of
you. Get
dollars
the
a
fuck
week
out of here.
bombing Iran for reason.
I'm a fucking
and I
nobody
understand.
YouTuber, dude. Get the
But
fuck out of here. I don't
California
give a fuck what you say, because you
dealt
can
the
never
millions
fucking
of
prove
people
what you
who are
fucking say.
struggling
Trader
to pay
MAGA
for
is Trader
healthcare,
MAGA forever.
groceries, or childcare. But
Spew
this is a
bullshit,
one-two
hope it
punch.
sticks, and then
The
run
Trump
away.
administration
Fuck
is
out of my
spending
life.
a tremendous amount of money on war, and the war is also driving up
You said you were gonna
costs
leave.
for
Go.
Americans.
Bye-bye.
Take the price of gasoline over the past month. For months, Donald Trump has been saying gas prices are going down. He has been loud and proud about it. Right
Nope.
now, the average price for gas is more than $3.70 a gallon. More.
Biggest group of voters in 2024 were non-voters. AKA, most people in this country don't give a fuck or hate your goddamn king dipshit Donald Duck. Bye-bye.
Than 80 cents higher per gallon than just 1 month ago when Donald Trump started this war. That's more than a 25% increase in gas prices in a single month, which Donald Trump called a very small price to pay. Well,
Yep, he's got a ballroom to build.
We have
Gary's
not seen
King's
gas
got a
prices
ballroom
jump
to
this
build.
much since Russia attacked Ukraine. And now Donald Trump's war is choking off the Strait of Hormuz. That's where about
Think before you
1/5
speak,
of
Gary.
the world's oil and natural gas supply comes through, and right now it's all bottled up. So what does that mean? Trump's war with Iran means gas prices are skyrocketing for American families here at home. And Donald Trump's response? If they
Send more
rise,
bombs!
They rise. In other words, he just doesn't care. Here's another one. Food prices. About a third of the world's fertilizer goes through that same Strait of Hormuz. And the prices jumped up by 30% in the days after Trump started this war. One U.S. farmer even said his fertilizer suppliers are warning that they just can't get the fertilizer. It's not only the price has gone up, it just literally is not available. So you've got all this fertilizer that can't go through the Strait of Hormuz, can't make it to our farmers here in America. And without that fertilizer, the farmers say they just can't plant as much food this year. And what's that going to mean? It means food prices will go up. So that's gasoline, that's food.
Yep.
But the prices of clothes, of technology,
Dipshit Donald Duck admitted he knew this was going to be a problem.
moved around by trucks that use gasoline or diesel, the prices for all of those goods will go up.
Message
as
retracted.
well.
What
Diesel
happened, Gary?
prices are already up.
Say
by
what you
more
gotta
than
say.
25%.
Unless you're swearing or
Raising
something.
the cost of shipping goods, including Amazon packages and food nationwide.
Threatening me or something would
And
be my
jet
first.
fuel prices have shot up by 58% since Trump
I don't
started
have.
the war.
I'm not big enough to have people monitoring my chat. So you're either swearing or threatening me or something.
Donald Trump's war with Iran
Go
is
for it,
gearing up
bud.
to become another forever war that burns billions of taxpayer dollars and makes life even more expensive for Americans here at home. This is
I don't know what that is,
the
but
American people
what's
do
up,
not
Alex?
want and did not ask for, but they're the ones who are footing the bill. And what does Trump administration have to say about that? Well, listen to Trump's top economic advisor. He said, quote, if the war were to be extended,
he fucking
it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S.
went and
economy
deleted all
at
his
all.
comments.
It would hurt consumers, and we have to think about what we want to do about that. But that's really the last of our concerns.
Screenshot.
Right now. Consumers.
Can't
The
escape.
last of our
Screenshot.
concerns. Higher prices for your family. The last of our concerns, according to the Trump administration.
Lives are recorded, Gary.
Look, you don't need to wonder why prices are going up. The Trump administration has said the quiet part out loud. The higher costs for American
Like I said,
families
I make
are
you leave.
paying are the last
I don't
of the
ban people.
concerns for the Trump administration.
I'm not big enough to have people
And
monitor my
they can't
lives.
even be bothered to worry about lowering costs for the
Say
American
whatever the fuck you
people.
want.
Lie number 2. Oh, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and other top officials just can't keep their story straight. They have no clear plan, and for weeks have failed to tell the American people what the goals are.
Dipshit Donald Duck doesn't know what's going on half the fucking time.
First, Trump said the war would be over.
Walk into that goddamn
4 or 5
presidential
weeks.
plane.
Okay, that was.
Reporter asked him
3
something.
weeks
Oh, I
ago.
don't know anything about that.
Since then, Trump has said all of
You're the
these
president.
things. The war is won. The U.S. still needs to finish the job. The operations could end soon. The military may need to go further. Every hour, the Trump administration's justification for this war sounds completely different. Why did the U.S. strike Iran? On March 2nd, Pete Hegseth said it was to end a 47-year war. The same day, Hegseth said it's because Iran refused to negotiate. And in another comment on the same day, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, said it was a response to Israel planning to strike. And then, on the same day, Donald Trump said it had nothing to do with Israel planning to strike. Donald Trump said, quote, if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. Rubio then said Iran would have, quote, so many short-range missiles in a year. That's the reason to initiate the war.
They just shot down an American plane today.
The reason why the U.S. struck Iran
They have
is
weapons.
because he had, quote, a
Trump
good
lies.
feeling that Iran would strike U.S. assets and our personnel in the region. Look, that's just one story after another, and none of them add up. How can the American people trust this government when this government can't even keep its own story straight? And the Trump administration clearly has no plan for how this war will end. On the very first day of the war, Trump called the attacks, quote, major combat operations in Iran. A week later, Trump called it, quote, short-term excursion that were, quote, getting very close to finishing. And what's the goal? The administration has no clue. On day one of the war, Trump told the Americans
Gary's
to
back.
attack Iran because Iran posed an imminent threat based on their nuclear capabilities. But remember, last June, Trump bombed Iran.
A fucking loser is the one that comes to somebody's live, fucking accuses them of bans them, and then fucking retracts all their messages.
Obliterated.
This is all recorded,
At
Gary.
the same time. And understand this, if Trump believes that Iran
Read my name one more time.
threat, then he had a chance to curb it. In fact, the United States had a deal that could have prevented Iran.
Coming, you're going. What is it, Gary? Come on now.
That was President Obama's nuclear deal.
Make up your
with
choice.
Iran, and Trump ripped up that deal. And here's the best part, got nothing in return.
Go wipe your king's ass, Gary.
So instead of doing the hard work of diplomacy to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, Trump lies to the
Clearly
American
you,
people
Gary, because you're still
while
here.
dragging us into yet another reckless war that is costing American lives. If you can believe it, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have even given conflicting takes on whether or not this war is over. On March 8th, Hegseth said, quote, this is only just the beginning. The next day, March 9th,
Thank you
Trump
for letting
said
me
the
know if
war
I'm
was,
high or
quote,
not.
complete, pretty much. But
You said you were
also
leaving.
said, quote, you could say both, very complete and
Multiple times.
just the beginning. Trump also said, quote, that we haven't won enough and that we will, quote,
Done, Gary, or
go
that's
further.
it?
But just days later, he said, quote, we won. The first hour, it was over. And then he said, quote, we don't want to leave early, do we? We've got to finish the job. Then last week, Trump said, we're ramping up strikes. How long will this war go on? Well, one day after the war, Trump said, quote, 4 to 5 weeks. The same day, Hegseth said, quote, more or less than 2, 4, or 6 weeks. And then he
Thank you
added,
for showing
quote,
us that Trader MAGA can't make up their mind, Gary. Thank
Then
you.
Hegseth said, quote, we'll go as far as we need to go to advance American
Turd is a
interests.
compliment.
On March 10th, Hegseth said,
Been called a
it's
lot
up to
worse.
Trump. He said, quote, our will is endless. Ultimately, the president gets to determine the end state of those objectives. On March 11th, Trump said the war with Iran will end, quote, soon. But this is not a game. This administration is sending young Americans to die overseas. And that means our government leaders need to treat this conflict with life and death seriousness. Instead,
Pocahontas,
government have the
where?
decency to level with the American people. Yet another lie from the Trump administration was about the horrific U.S. military strike on an elementary school in the early days of the war.
Gary's king
Last
killed
week,
kids.
a preliminary investigation by the Department of Defense confirmed that it is likely that it was our own military that bombed a girls' school in Iran. This is one of the most devastating
I wouldn't want that on my
military
conscience, Trader
mistakes
MAGA.
in decades. 175 people were killed. Most of them were children.
On your tax
Now,
dollar.
before the investigation, Trump said over and over that the attack was done by Iran. But even after the investigation, Trump kept lying.
She made the
to
speech
American
yesterday, by the
people.
way.
He said,
American
quote, he didn't
jet
know
was shot down
about the
today.
investigation.
Iran has
An
weapons.
investigation done by his own military
Dipshit down the
on one of the
glide.
most horrific military
Gary's
mistakes
king
in
lied.
recent history. And remember, Pete Hegseth gutted the office that was in charge of preventing civilian harm. How do I know? I led the charge to establish that office in the first place. Hegseth is also purging the military's legal experts,
Is that
the
Pocahontas?
people who act as legal guardrails, and ordered a, quote, ruthless overhaul to make sure that no one else who might question him is left standing. It is a betrayal of our service members and a betrayal of the American people that we still
Thank you for that like.
have
I
no
appreciate it. I really do.
and no accountability. So what would accountability look like here? Well, for starters, Pete Hegseth should be fired immediately. Hegseth's
He should have
long
been
path
fired when he
of
fucking
chaos
the
and
biggest
incompetence
national security leak in
has put
American
our service
history. The
members and the
fuck?
American people at risk. And we haven't even scratched the surface of Signalgate
No.
or Hegseth's role in boat strikes that could be war crimes. Pete Hegseth has got to go, and he needs to go now. Now, the basic story here is pretty straightforward. Working families are struggling to pay for basic needs like groceries, housing, healthcare, electricity, and now prices are shooting up even higher because of Donald Trump's new war in Iran. Donald Trump's dangerous actions overseas are making everyday life both more expensive and regular Americans are paying the price. That's Trump's America in a nutshell. And instead of changing their policies and actually trying to help the American people and not just themselves and their rich buddies, Trump and the Republicans are working to keep as many Americans from voting as humanly possible. That's what this bill is really about. And every senator who cares about our democracy should vote no. Mr. President, I yield.
Hey folks, it's March 17th.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll probably be back later.
In Boston,
Take care. Be safe out there.
Anniversary